Hello everybody, my name's Rick McCutcheon. I'm a Microsoft MVP, and today on this MS Dynamics World and Plauti presentation, we've got an excellent topic. We're going to talk about the 5 hidden costs of duplicate data on D365 CE projects, a partner rescue plan, and I like that, a partner rescue plan. So let's go to our next slide, and I'll introduce our speakers today. Nicolas, introduce yourself.
Yes, thanks, Rick. So yeah, my name is Nico. I'm Nicolas. Call me whatever feels comfortable for you. I'm from Honduras, so I speak Spanish. If you want to send anything in Spanish, feel free to do so. I've been working for the company for over nearly 4 years. So yeah, becoming slowly a data expert, and I'm here with my colleague Augie to show you what to take advantage from.
Okay, Nico, thank you. Augie.
Yeah, thank you for the intro, Nico. So yeah, my name is Augie. I'm working with Nico together. I'm also the founding AE at Plauti. I've been here for almost 5 years this summer. Yeah, I'd also say almost a data expert. I guess you're never done learning, but we're getting there.
Okay, excellent. So let's jump into our presentation. And for some of the partners and customers, you probably haven't heard of Plauti before, but please check out their website. They've got vast experience and many products to do with getting your data right. So today we're going to talk about exploring the hidden costs of poor data quality, and I think we can all relate to that. We'll talk about some common data challenges with customers, turning costs to opportunity. Okay, that's a good one. We'll do a live demo. Nico's going to show us the product, and then we're going to talk about the partner program benefits. So let's get into this, and we're going to lead off with Augie.
Yes, thanks, Rick, for the introduction. Just a little bit of context around our company, because I haven't touched upon it yet. So we've been in the space for, I guess, over 10 years now. In the beginning, primarily focused on Salesforce, and now we're also building our software for Dynamics. And what we basically do is we focus on improving CRMs there to be like a single source of truth. So mainly focusing on data quality, and that's where we're gonna kick off things today on hidden costs, basically. So we listed 5 hidden costs that we see with a lot of implementation partners that are impacting implementation in the end, and we're going to kick off with the first one. So basically, it's going to be about implementation rework. And what we consistently hear from our partners is that data quality, poor data quality, especially duplicate data, creates a cycle of unexpected fixes that weren't originally planned in the project scope. So what often happens is partners complete an implementation. I don't know if it's ever complete, but at least they finalize it. Everything works in their test environment. Client signs off, they go live, and a couple of weeks later, you'll see some support tickets flooding in. Some workflows are breaking. Some reports are showing incorrect numbers. Some automations are firing multiple times for the same entity, and clients are getting a little bit frustrated. And then what we often see is that these partners are basically spending unbillable hours to diagnose these problems. They're rebuilding some configurations, they're creating workarounds. And it's not just because of poor data quality, but a big part also is because of duplicate records, which is causing the system to behave in unpredictable ways. And this is not just the occasional issue. Our partners report that in, I guess, 3 out of 4 times, data quality isn't addressed upfront. And I guess the worst part here is that these fixes not only address these fixes that these partners do address just symptoms and never really tackle the root cause, which means that they will see these effects of poor data quality throughout the whole life cycle of the client, and also through the relationship with the client and the partner. And we believe from a data quality perspective is that by identifying, resolving these issues, this duplicate data, before it impacts the implementation, you can just prevent a lot of costly rework entirely throughout the whole client's life cycle, which in our opinion would protect your project's margins and also the satisfaction of the client. So that's one thing that we see with just poor data quality and implementations.
If I can add to this, which I could probably do a whole nother hour on this slide, this is really important to partners, because when we start to get into this, we've got to be profitable when we're doing a project, and there's nothing worse than having it slowed down or if nobody's really paid attention to the data during the implementation stage, whether it's an upgrade, whether it's a brand new project, or if we're adding ISV technology to our implementations or building something with Power Apps. It's important we get the data right, because at the end of the day, we're going to get all these unexpected errors that Ogi was talking about, which is really costing your partner organization money, because anytime we slow down or have to do a rework, it's not all billable. Another thing that we really have to start paying attention to is at the beginning of every project, we need to have a data discussion with the customer, because so many of the things we do now, especially around things like Fabric we're trying to bring in, things like marketing automation, they all really need, and especially AI and copilots, we need good data for them to work. So data is becoming more and more important to every one of our projects.
Yeah, definitely. Good point, Rick. Indeed.
Okay, let's look at cost number 2.
Exactly. Yeah, and we'll cover the AI part and Copilot also later in one of the 5 hidden costs, because it's a very big one. But in general, what we often see as well, not just Dynamics partners, but also sales partners, is low CRM adoption after implementation, which is sometimes even the worst part of doing what we're doing, right? Because you're implementing for partners or for clients, and then you see that they often just reside back to old ways. You've built a nice system with all the bells and whistles, you train the users, but there's signs, right? So you're meeting with the client's team, and sometimes you notice like Excel sheets being passed around, or salespeople mention that checking their personal notes rather than actually checking the CRM. When you look at the reports of CRM logins, it's just sporadic. They don't really log in. And what often is happening is that when users encounter poor data quality or duplicate data, slowly their trust in the system falls apart. So, for example, a sales rep finds 3 different contact records for the same person, each with different information. Well, finding it is not really the issue per se, but it's the fact that when they call a client and they tell them, hey, we're already a client of yours, I'm not sure why you're calling. Or, hey, we spoke already to a colleague of yours yesterday. These things hurt. And when that happens multiple times, salespeople get also demotivated. So they go back to their old ways, find out what works, look through their notes. Okay, this client is definitely mine, so I'm going to call them. And they kind of skip the CRM together. This also happens with CS, a customer service. They can't find the right account history. Marketing pulls in incorrect segments. Managers run reports that don't really match, so which impacts a sales team or a marketing team. And then generally, then the CRM then becomes a very expensive database that no one really uses. The client doesn't see their expected ROI, which makes them then generally hesitant to invest in additional services from the partner or just do general more business with the firm. So that's also a very, I wouldn't say it's 100% due to poor data quality, but it is slowly affecting your relationship. And we believe that we should tackle that from the beginning.
And if we jump back into the partner side of this, user adoption is always a concern with CRM. And a lot of times the duplicate data is not the salesperson's fault. Like, we could have somebody trying to use a marketing automation application from the outside and then pouring data into the CRM, which is a very common problem, or the business model within the ERP and the CRM is not aligned properly. So a rep's getting duplicate data, they're missing things. When they do a report, when they do a forecast, they've got to go in and redo it. So, really from a CRM user adoption, it's important, but it also, it leads to many other areas within an organization. But I think this is an important one because we need to keep, especially our sales teams, motivated that, hey, if I'm going to use the CRM system, it's going to benefit me because it's going to feed the ERP, it's going to feed the marketing automation, and I won't have to do these forecasts and reports. So very, very important. Great. Let's look at hidden cost 3. Sorry, Obi.
Yeah, no, go ahead. Indeed. Yeah, hidden cost 3 is it's close to it's something that we just don't want to see with partners, right? Like damaged client relationships, but they can gradually deteriorate after implementation if things go wrong. We spoke about you already delivering or partner already delivering a solid system, solid core, but as weeks pass, Some clients notice subtle changes in client interactions. Everyone's super happy before implementation. They're hyped. They're like, yeah, let's go live. And then generally, not always, but you see that those check-ins that were super positive now become more, I guess, focused on small issues and frustrations. Partners feel like they're actually fighting fires. And while there are always multiple factors at play, data quality problems do quietly contribute to that shift from positive to slightly negative. And that's what we spoke about earlier as well. Like when users encounter duplicates or inconsistent information, it just creates a series of small disappointments in the system. And the client doesn't explicitly blame the data quality. They might not even notice that it's the issue is data quality, but they do experience a general sense of that the system isn't really quite living up to their expectations. And that slowly just accumulates over time. The clients become less receptive to your suggestions. They hesitate when you propose additional services, like what Rick mentioned on a potential Fabric implementation or enhancements. And that relationship just starts to be evolving into that thought you had of a relationship evolving into new opportunities starts to plateau slowly. And that's also what we see with partners.
So this is a great slide because I have been so many of these meetings as an MVP who's been a consultant on many of these projects for both sides, for the partner and for the customer. We're always sitting in a room at the end of phase one and we're saying, okay, why aren't we getting the results? And a lot of the time it's because of the data. And then all the time the customer turns and looks at the partner and said, why didn't you figure this out ahead of time? Right? Why are we seeing this now? And again, damaged client relationships because they're going to have less trust in you if you don't deliver results to them. The excuses are one thing, but bad data, we got to jump on this early in a project. So excellent slide, Ogi. Okay, let's look at hidden cost 4.
Yes. 4 is about revenue opportunities that partners potentially miss when data quality issues persist. So when we look at successful Microsoft partners, we can see how they leverage connected and clean data as a foundation for upselling additional services. And they highlight how one source of truth enables clients to make decisions with confidence. You can also see the tagline on the top of the slides, trusted data, confident action. That's just our whole credo. Like we live and breathe that. You can only make confident actions if you can 100% trust the data. And when your clients struggle with duplicate data, you miss these natural expansion opportunities. They're hesitant to invest in Fabric. They're hesitant to invest in creating Power Apps because they don't feel like they trust their data. They're reluctant to adopt AI solutions like Copilot for sales, for example, because they know these tools amplify existing data problems. John, think about the services you could be offering. You can make apps, you can make customer dashboards, just creating or integrating these marketing integrations. I guess as a partner, you can be doing so much more, but when the data is rubbish, clients just are hesitant to work with you on more integrations. And these are all services you could be selling to your existing clients if the fundamental data was clean and reliable. But instead, clients are stuck at the implementation stage. They're focused on fixing basic issues and leveraging your expertise for high value projects that would generate additional revenue for your clients, but also for your CRM practice.
And on that, for those partners that know me out there, I've been organizing user communities around CRM for the last 15 years. And I've got customers that came early on. They weren't my customers, but they were Dynamics customers. They've been using the application right from was version 3 back then into in the cloud today, and they've invested hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars in their CRM project, but they continuously worked on improving it and getting the results. And the other ones that I've seen come and go over the years are the ones that just weren't getting the results and looking at it as a long-term investment. And I think, the smart customers today are saying, I'm going to implement this CRM because I need the data. I need the data to feed my forecasts. I need the data to feed my account management, to feed my ERP systems everywhere. So I think data is really the focus when it comes to long-term relationships which are big for partners and growing your revenues. Okay,
Good
what's
one.
number 5?
Yeah, we're also going to stop a little bit on a look at client stickiness later on in the slides as well. There's also a very big one, keeping your clients loyal to your practice, keeping them coming back, basically. But the next slide is going to be about future-proofing problems, which is a final hidden cost. And it's going to be more about, something that affects your client's long-term technology journey. Because as we all know, Microsoft is evolving, Salesforce is evolving, every big company out there is evolving, and they're specifically focused on new AI capabilities. They're creating or even enhancing integration that's already out there. Advanced analytics, for example, Salesforce is doing the whole Tableau rework. They're just really, really building on the ecosystems, which even puts more emphasis on good data quality. But these innovations represent quite a significant value and future project opportunities for your CRM practice. The challenge here is, though, they really this technology. I don't know how I can say it, but these advanced technologies demand clean, consistent data to function. And when clients have poor and duplicate data, they just can't take advantage of these innovations when they arrive. They can't implement Copilot well, because it really relies on high quality data to generally generate meaningful insights and automate business processes. And when duplicate records exist, these tools produce, inconsistent or incorrect results, undermining the value proposition entirely. And the same applies to, for example, data migration. When clients need to upgrade or move to new systems, duplicate data just creates costly complications and delays. And this is where we're going to potentially also help.
I have to agree with you totally, especially when we start talking about copilots, right? And getting our customers to adopt them within their Dynamics instances is going to be very, very important. And Microsoft is really putting an emphasis on this now. So I think the best partners need to sit down with every one of their clients and have a data conversation. Say, okay, you want to move forward. You want to be able to use these AI tools. You want to be able to make your business proactive when it comes to technology. Then we've got to start looking at your data. And I think this is a great way back into customers to say, okay, what else can I do that's going to have a very high value for you? So, this whole future-proofing problems, it's about today, but it's about the next 5 years with these customers.
Yeah, very valid point.
Okay, so I think our next part, we're going to look at some of the common data challenges and look at a case study from Xerox.
Yes, indeed. So we covered the 5 hidden costs right now, and now we're going to take a look into a more practical use case that we saw with Xerox. This one hits home. This is a project that I was closely involved with. Also a project where my champion, so to speak, really had to sell internally to all the business units why that data quality was very, very important. As you all know, Xerox is a global leader in document management, and they face significant duplication issues in their CRM. So while individual sales teams didn't really notice duplicates within their localized instances that much, the problems escalated when they went cross-team. So as their global CRM manager, Hans, explained, high duplication rates and outdated information directly impacted the effectiveness of our marketing campaigns. So you can see it on the slide as well. One of their goals was to unlock the power of personalized marketing. And after implementing our solutions, Xerox significantly improved the data quality, which enhanced the performance of both marketing and sales teams. And with cleaner data, their campaigns became much more targeted and effective. And what's particularly valuable about this example is that it shows that data quality issues often hide within these departmental silos, and they only become visible when you try to scale initiatives across the organization or implement more advanced functionality, like any marketing tech that you want to implement. Every time they come to us, they're like, hey, we tried to implement this marketing software, but I don't think our data is really fit for purpose. And that's exactly what many of clients are experiencing right now, even though they haven't fully recognized the problem yet.
And I know you've done this a process within Xerox, but I think as partners, we're going to have many customers out there today, especially when we look at marketing automation. I've worked a lot in this space in the last 3 years. A lot of companies trying to use marketing automation tools that really don't fit within Dynamics. And it's causing a lot of this cross-team duplication. And if you don't have the proper tools to clean it up, you can never really clean it up. It's not a manual process that really works. So, we're seeing world-class companies like Xerox, fix these things and see it as a big benefit to the organization. And I think a lot of our customers are going to be that way over the next couple of years.
Yeah, I fully agree.
Okay, so now we're going to talk about turning costs into opportunities. And I think we've hit a lot on that in the last couple of slides, but let's pull it all together, Ogie.
Exactly. So basically, we've identified these hidden costs. So we're going to focus indeed more on how we can turn challenges into real opportunities for the practice. So as a partner, you're in a very unique position, right, to elevate your implementation practices. You can do that by incorporating data quality management as a standard component, which doesn't just only avoid problems, it also creates new values for both the clients and the business. And we believe that by addressing data quality proactively, you can transform the typical implementation experience from one that not per se disappoints, because they're always happy with the implementation, but one that sometimes disappoints from a data quality perspective, to one where clients have clean, reliable data from the start. They experience the full value of your implementation work. And this approach generates multiple revenue streams for your practice. At least that's our opinion. What you can do is, for example, offer data quality assessments as a pre-implementation service. You can bundle deduplication solutions as part of your standard deduplication or your standard implementation package. You can provide ongoing data maintenance services after go live. But we believe that most importantly, by ensuring data quality, you position yourself to sell those high value services we discussed earlier. So a Fabric implementation, a marketing automation integration implementation, it's a lot of words, or even AI implementations like Copilot, because clients now have the clean data foundation that these solutions require. And what we often see is that partners who take this approach find that they spend less time firefighting and more time delivering strategic value that clients are happy to pay for. They become trusted advisors rather than just technical support providers. And I think the last one is really important. No one wants to be a firefighter. I guess everyone wants to be a trusted advisor that clients just come back to, like month after month after month after years.
We were seeing, a lot of partners today building AI practices, and within that AI practices is sort of a sub practice for data. Like, I think they're really seeing the value in this, because there's no way an AI practice is going to get anywhere without data specialists being part of that practice. And again, those are the professional services I think we're going to be looking for in the future as partners.
I agree, indeed. I think next one, going to do a demo, right?
Yeah, so I think we're going to have Nico take us through the product. So Nico, over to you.
All right. Thanks, Rick and Ogie, for those insights. For now, we're going to focus on the demo of our solution. Our solution is called Plauti Deduplication. So for it, we'll focus on 3 different parts. We're focusing on identifying, preventing duplicate records, and of course, we'll show you a little bit of the configuration so you see how easy, flexible, and intuitive it is to set it up. So for demo purposes, we'll start off by creating a new record. We can imagine a sales representative or maybe a marketing person is creating a new record. Or in this case, we're going to use the contact entity. So let's say I'm going to try and create a new record. As we can see, we have a Peter Parker already in the database, so we'll start using him. Let's say we want to create a new record. So let's do Peter Parker. Now, I know his email is peter.parker@daily.com. Now, for the first prevention feature I'm going to show you is what we call as you type notification, right? So I have configured right now that when I have 3 fields populated, it will run a search to see if this record is a duplicate record with anything existing in my database. So as soon as I click outside of the box, we'll see that it's triggering in and it's searching for duplicates. In this case, as you probably saw, it has found some duplicates and it gives me a warning. This seems like a duplicate contact. You should first check the duplicates found tab before you try and save it. So we can go to the duplicates found and we can see that it shows me two different records. Peter Parker with the email, exact name, right? So from here on, I can decide, okay, do I want to work on one of the existing records? Do I want to ignore and save it? Right, so you have different options here. I can click on open the record and this just opens the existing record, right? So as a first prevention feature, if the end user is creating a new record, it shows us a duplicate, then you will be able to, well, flag them that there's a potential duplicate in the database. Instead of creating a new contact, they would go and work on the existing one, right? So in this case, I'm gonna continue with the creation of this record. And this, as we mentioned, is the as you type. Now, the second prevention feature would be on click on save. And this is when trying to save a new record. It will automatically direct you to the same tab, duplicates found. And in this case, I have a hard block that when the records match at a 95% or higher, it's gonna hard block any end user from creating a record. So as you can see, the warning messaging is, hold on there. This contact you're trying to create has a 95% or higher chance of being a duplicate record. You are not allowed to save it. And as you can see here, these two records have 100% matches. So in this case, I'm not allowed to save the record and therefore I can keep my database clean. Similar, if we go back to, as you can see, it's not safe, discard changes. If I go back to the contact list, we're gonna work on a different contact now. So if I open the Clark Kent, I know this one has a duplicate. As soon as I open the record, it gives me a warning. Hey, it seems that this contact you're currently working on has a potential duplicate. Please review them on the duplicates found tab. Once again, I can go from here and identify the duplicate records, right? In this case, because the record is created already, and I have 3 duplicate records, the one I'm working on and 2 other, I'm gonna select them and merge the selected records. As you can see here now, the 3 different records will be next to each other so that I can decide what data to store from each record. I'll show you more of this configuration later on, but to start off, we can see that we have 3 different records next to each other. We can have up to 15 records, that's 15 records next to each other, so it will help with the merging. In this case, I've configured to only display fields with conflicting data. So in this case, we can see that they do have different phone numbers, they have different emails, and the last name is different, right? But we can change the views if we want to have more information. So you can display equal fields. So you can see that, well, in this case, lots of fields with same values are displayed. Do they add any value when you're comparing records? That's up to you to decide. So in this case, I like to use only with conflicting data. As you can see, the other fields, you can see read-only fields or empty fields. From here on, let's say I want to save this number, but I want to do some edits. I can go to the merge preview. This is how the record will look after the merge. And I can decide to still edit the field. So in this case, I want to standardize the phone number and add the plus country code. So I update the value. You can see it deselected the options and it stores the new value here. Similar, you can change the master record. So I prefer this to be the master record or this one, and you can see the information here changes, right? The master record rule is a rule that you set up in the configuration. I'll show you to you in a bit. But as you can see, here are the records. Now, I'm happy with the selection of the data. Let me go ahead and merge them. So I'm merging all the 3 records here at a time. It will store, as we can see on the merge preview, and from here on, I can keep a clean database, right? So from 3 records, we are gonna go to 1. Now, once this process, I'm gonna show you a couple more things on the winner record. as we can see now, it's loading. There we go. So if I work on this record, you can see that there's no duplicates found anymore, right? Because we have merged them all. All right. If I go to the inactive records, I can see that I have both of them there. And I have selected a status reason as merged, right? This is a way for me to flag, okay, these records are not deleted, they're deactivated, but the deactivation is, sorry about that. The deactivation is on a merge status. If I open one of these records, I can see a master reference field and a status reason. As I mentioned, the merged and a master reference field. What this does is, this is a reference to the winner record, right? So from here on, I can identify the winner record, similar with the highlighted banner here. This record was merged with the record with ID, ta-da-da. So this way, if I end up in this deactivated record, I can see what happened to it. In this case, was merged to this one, so that I can always have a history back to the winner record and see what happened. All right, now these are some ways that we can work on creating new records. Of course, we can also work on quick create, so it can also find duplicates there. But now, in a large database, we see a lot of our customers have a lot of value on running a job, what we call a duplicate job, on the existing database. So we'll do that now. We'll run a job on the contacts and we'll find a lot more records. So from here, we'll go to the app itself. So we'll go to Plauti Deduplicate. From here, you'll go to the Manage Entities tab. We'll see here the different entities that you have. We can work on all standard custom entities. For now, I'm working on the contacts as we show you. But let me first run a job. So we'll go to the duplicate check job page. We're going to check for duplicates. So we're going to create a new job. Add a new job. In this case, we're going to name it contacts cleanup. We look for the entity we want to work on, so the contact entity as we mentioned. We select the scenario. The scenario is basically the configuration and the sets of rules that you have on how to identify duplicate records. We'll jump into this in a bit more detail in a bit. But as you can see by the names, I'm comparing in this case name and company. So first name, last name and company, account name, name and email, and name and phone number. The reason I'm selecting 3 different scenarios here is because now they work with an OR operator. So I'm either looking for records based on the name and the company, or on the name and the email and or on the name and the phone number. From here on, we have the option to add a filter. Do we want to work on a subset of data? Perhaps records created the last week, the last month, perhaps under a certain territory. You can add any filtering option here. In this case, I won't use a filter, and this means it's running your entire database, everything versus everything on the contact entity. If I click on next, we have 2 processing options. We have the DC local option and the Plauti cloud option. Plauti cloud is an external cloud, and DC local is on your local server or desktop. With DC local, we have options to run it on your existing server. So if you have an Azure server there, you can run the job on that. I'll use the DC local option now. So I click on start. It will give you a bit of an introduction to what DC local is, how to get it running, how to get it set up. In this case, I'll click on finish, and I will open my duplicate check local app. As you can see here, I don't have available jobs yet. I'll have to refresh, but before that, I want to explain a little bit how you get here. So to use duplicate check local, you have to sign in with your Microsoft account, the one connected to the existing production environment, so that you can identify it, basically that it is you. I can refresh, and now we can see that here I have the job contacts cleanup, which is the one we created. So I'm going to select it, start the job, and now it's basically doing the process, exporting the records. Then we will try and find the duplicates, match them, and then retrieve the data back to the environment. Now, to let you know, I currently have it on a manual process where I have to manually start the jobs. We do have the option to automatically start them. So as soon as you click start on the duplicate checks job, then you will be able to run it automatically here, as long as the app duplicate check local is open. In this case, we can see that the results are done. I can click on view results, and it will throw you back to the Plauti Deduplication tab. In this case, I'll just click here, and now we can see that the results are here. So I can click on view results, and I see that they're grouped here together. So just to open a couple ones, I can see here, well, the Peter Parker we have been working on, it found Walter White, so a little bit more records here, right? And you can see that it found duplicate records in my contact entity. As we know, I can click on the merge group, and it will give the merge preview. And from here on, I can decide, okay, what records am I going to use? What data do I want to store? In this case, the only difference is the Parkins last name. So I can decide, okay, what data do I want to keep from the records? Once you process through the job, you start seeing patterns. In this case, they're all very accurate duplicates. They're all 100%. You can decide to auto-merge the process if you want to speed up the process. So I can go to job options, start an auto-merge, and I'm going to auto-merge records that are 100% matches. So I click on next. Once again, the processing options. And now I'll go back to my local tab, refresh, and I have the context cleanup here for the auto merge. So let me run that, and you can see how the records are going to be merged. So we have 17 groups now. I'll show you in a bit once it's processed how it will merge them. Now, this might bring some questions. What data does it take from each record? How does it decide what is the winner record? So for that, we're gonna go to the configuration and gonna work on the different tabs there. So we go to the Manage Entities tab. As we're working on the accounts, let me focus on that one. We will start off by creating a scenario. So a scenario, as I mentioned before, is what fields are we using to compare records. So in this case, I have a couple ones. Focusing on this one, the first name, the last name, and the email are the fields I'm using for comparison. You can add any field available on the object itself. So you can use whatever field you think is going to be helpful for the identification of duplicates. We're going to select the matching method. In this case, I'm using a fuzzy logic, which means that it will try to see not only exact matches, but if there's certain typos or certain discrepancies between the names, it will still flag them as duplicates. As you can see, we have several ones, some tailored for specific fields. The company name, as the name says, is used for companies. This advanced algorithm that we have to help with LLCs, incorporated, and those kind of names that are usually on companies. We have a disregard field. So what happens if I'm comparing two records and one of them has an empty field? Do I want to still use that field as a comparison, or do I want to disregard? For example, if I have a field without a first name, if I have it on disregard, it means that deduplication, to identify them, it will based only on the last name and the email address. And lastly, we have here the field importance. So from this combination of fields, which one is the most important? In my case, as you can see, they're equally important, but perhaps you want to use the email as a higher percentage, so a 2 instead of a 1, because an email is a unique identifier, right? No two records should have the same email address. So perhaps you want to add more value to this existing field. This will give us a threshold, so that's why it always adds to 100 for easy calculations. What this means on the minimum required matching percentage is that the record has to be at least 75% duplicate in this case to be considered a duplicate. So with the example right now, we will need a combination of an email and a last name, for example, for it to be considered a duplicate. If we drop this one to 1, then we would need a combination of 3 different records, 3 different fields to reach that 75%, right? So you're very flexible here to decide, okay, how strict do I want to be when finding duplicate records? And as you can see, you can create different scenarios. I have one specific for hard blocking when they meet the 95% criteria, or ones with different fields. Now we'll focus on the context settings. Here is where you will decide what happens to the record. Now, the first is the result fields. What fields do you want to be displayed when you're working on a certain record, right? In this case, I'm using the fields that are on the scenarios because those are the fields where I'm basing my criteria on. Furthermore, you'll be able to select if you want to work on active and inactive records. So in this case, I have the inactive, and merge. Those are not considered in any search, so they're not taken into consideration. If we move to the third tab, we have the merge settings. So from here, you'll be able to decide, okay, what entities do you want to exclude when they have a relationship? Do you want to deactivate or delete the records, right? So when you're doing a merge, one of the records is kept in the database, the other is deleted. Do you want to be, well, it will be deleted if you have it not deleted, or it will just be deactivated if you prefer, right? You have to select a field on the loser record where the reference to the winner record will be stored. And as I mentioned, you can set a specific merged status reason so you know that that record was merged into another one. Now, for the, let me just save that so it's away. Now, for the merge settings, we'll start, For the merge, we'll define first a master record rule, right? So this can be based on the date, a created date or modified date, and the least or most recent, right? A typical use case we see is the least recent, that's the oldest record created, but you have the flexibility to use any of the different 4 options. Here we have the rule, do you want to allow end users to to change the master record, or do you want it to be a fixed rule decided by an admin, for example? In this case, I have a turn on, which that's why I could change the master record when we're merging records. Now, per field, and specifically for the use case we set up last, the auto merge, for every field you will be able to select a different rule. So by default, they will start following the master record rule. So in this case, they will all follow the least recent created date. But perhaps there are certain fields that you want to use different data. So a typical use case we see is on the email field. So let me scroll there. On the email, perhaps you want to use a last modified date, least recent, or most recent, because that could be the most up-to-date phone number. Email address, right? Similar with the phone number, perhaps you want to take a modified date, least recent, or created date, most recent, because that could be more valuable information than storing the last. Perhaps that is the new record has the phone number or email address that the user wants to be contacted on. Lastly, we'll go to the feature activation setup, and here's where we define, okay, which scenario from the ones we have created do we want to use on which prevention feature. So, a couple of the ones we discussed: notification on blocking insert when clicking a new, when trying to save a new contact. So in this case, as you can see, I have the 3 different ones. When do I want it to be triggered? So in this case, as soon as any field is typed, then it will be triggered to find duplicates. And a custom message, right? So in this case, as we saw, wait a minute, it looks like you're about to create a duplicate contact. Result fields, what fields to show when you are, identifying them. Do you want to block them? In certain cases, you turn it on, and then you select a scenario that when they meet that criteria, they will be hard blocked. So that's why, in my case, pretty easy. I have a name hard block, so I know which scenario it is. And of course, a new custom text. So here you can set up the configuration for all of them. They're pretty similar. Select the scenarios, what fields, and the custom text, and so on, right? But we have the different features. So as you type when creating a duplicate, updating an existing contact. So you're working on a contact, you try to edit some fields, and then it realizes it's a duplicate record, then that will be also a warning or an alert for an end user or somebody in charge to say, okay, these 2 are duplicates, let me merge them. When creating a new contact, when creating via quick create, or when you just open a record, it will show if it finds any duplicate records. This is pretty much for the configuration. Now, as you might recall, we had our job running. So let me go back to the jobs page. And now it was still processing in this case, but as we can see, we had view results. We had 17, and now we only have one duplicate group. And here we have Walter White. So in a couple of seconds, this should be done, speaking there. And now we can see that there's no duplicate records. My database is clean. It all merged all the duplicate records. And now I can, well, make sure that any other situation I work from here on, any new project, any new implementation starts off with clean data. And that way, as Rick and Ogi have mentioned plenty of times, will boost any potential implementation, any results. It will create everything a bit more efficient. I think that covers our solution, Plauti Deduplication. So I'll give it back to you, Rick and Ogi. Thank you very much.
Okay, thanks. Let's look at our next steps that we need to accomplish in this relationship. So back over to you, Ogi.
Cool. Thanks for the intro, indeed. Yeah. So next steps, what you often see with partners is that they download the free trial. You can find it on the App Source or on the Azure Marketplace. It's a 14-day free trial where you can test out the solution in your own environment. We'll be in standby to help you set up and to actually train you on how to use it. Then there's also an option to just book a live demo with us. We'll walk you through, show you how we typically implement these solutions, and you can actually ask questions. Maybe like we do like a small Q&A. And then what often follows afterwards is a partner discussion meeting. How can we work together? We'll go over some contracts, we'll go over some resources, and then we basically kick it off from there.
Okay, great. So let's look at how people can contact you.
Cool. Yeah. So these are our emails. The slide will be, I guess the PowerPoint will be shared afterwards, or we can just email it to everyone. So these are our emails. You can find more information on our website on www.plauti.com. Yeah, that's basically it.
Okay, well, gentlemen, thank you very much, Ogi and Nico, for this excellent presentation. And I know this is a very top-of-mind subject for Dynamics partners, so I'm sure you'll get a big response, and I'm looking forward to seeing you in the Microsoft ecosystem.
Thank you. Yeah, thanks a lot for helping us here as well, and you've been a wonderful host, I must say.
Okay, thank you very much, and bye for now.